Oh, hi, it's me again. Sorry, it's been like forever. Let's get down to brass tacks. I like movies. I think anyone who has talked with me or has. It's not like my normal content that I've been posting here on this. I don't even know what this is anymore. There's all kinds of nonsense here. Let me sit down real quick. I'm Midori, by the way. Nice to meet you. I like movies, and I like all kinds of movies, from the horror genre to the drama genre to anything from here to there. I'm a big fan. I also like really niche movies, things that haven't come out yet, things that haven't been released yet. I like to get a hold on the newest thing that's coming out, and it's kind of a passion of mine to give it a watch and to see for myself if it's something that deserves to be on the big screen or deserves anybody's time. I think that there's a movie that I found recently that definitely deserves a watch from anybody who likes small indie projects. Not mainly because there's a myriad of different reasons why someone may not want to enjoy this type of film. It's definitely something that needs to be watched by fans of the genre, as well as someone who's working on a movie project with a small budget. It's kind of an inspirational thing, to be honest, and to see something like this on Blu-ray is definitely something to be looked at and to be admired, I think, to a certain extent. The movie in question is the Japanese film Howl from Beyond the Fog. Kaiju movie written and directed by Daisuke Sato and Yohei Yanase. It takes place during the Meiji era in Japan and follows a blind girl from Kyushu named Takiri and a blind swamp god named Nebula. This is a kaiju film. It follows mainly a very similar formula that a lot of other kaiju films, from the massive Godzilla backlog and franchise, as well as, Pacific Rim. Even though Pacific Rim is more of a modern, future kind of thing. It's kind of closer to the Godzilla thing, actually, to be honest. What is this film even about? So pretty much what happens in the film is through a series of attacks led by greedy industrial developers, and with just the weirdest looking faces I could possibly even fathom. There's a series of attacks against the swamp god to try to remove it from the premises, and this causes the beast to pretty much demolish the entire town and kill the developers. The movie's runtime is about 34 minutes, and it had an extremely small budget. It had a pretty decent punch. It was a fun film. I have to say, it was a fun film. The set design, the editing, and unique style overall was the main reason why it was such a great film, and deserves a watch from anybody, even if you're not a fan of the kaiju genre. Give kind of more of a rundown of what takes place in the film. Is the content of the film was, as I mentioned before, the time and place of the film is the Meiji era, and I really hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm gonna add it right here. That's the word. That's the era that takes place. It takes place at a small mountain village named Kyushu, or Kyushu. Plot is that there's a young boy and his older blind cousin Takiri, sorry. I'm gonna butcher these names. Takiri have somewhat of a friendly relationship with a local lake god / creature. They both, the god and Takiri, have been blind And because they're both blind, this allows them to have a very deep connection with each other. They hang out. They have good times. They probably crack open a couple Pepsis on the weekends. They're pretty good. At least that's what I'm saying. They're pretty good friends, you know? So as it moves into the second act of the film, these industrialists come to remove the lake god and kill the girl, because the girl has a connection with the lake god, and also the girl, it has a very mysterious but interesting backstory where, you know, a family member kicked one family member out of the house, and then that family member, the one that got kicked out of the house, had a child with someone outside the family. So there's a lot of honor, a lot of backstabbing. There's a lot of like, you know, stuff that kind of fits in that whole type of thing. You know, there's a lot of like feelings, a lot of hard feelings. So she's considered like a just a kind of throwaway child. Like nobody wants her, and really she's being taken care of by, I think, grandparents, I believe, or like uncles and aunts. I can't remember exactly how. I think it's like an uncle and aunt one. Yeah, because just watch it, okay? It'll make more sense. So it moves in the second act. The industrialists come to remove the lake god and kill the girl, and this throws the lake god into like a super crazy fury, because they're trying to, you know, kill his friend, his blind girlfriend. So like he gets really mad. Or Nebula. Yeah, so the blind, you know, the monster gets really, really mad. Tries to hunt down the industrialists and kill them, and while it's doing that, it just totally decimates, you know, the village, the nearby village. And then as the third act comes to a close, Nebula returns to the lake where it came from, and the movie ends. The girl and her cousin pretty much hugging it out and be like, wow, that was super traumatic. And then the lake god goes, and then it just chills. Pretty much, you know, that's kind of how the main plot of the movie goes. In summary, I think I'm really butchering it, but it's a really fun, it's a really interesting film, okay? So the dialogue is Japanese. All of this was filmed in Japan. Hello? Oh my gosh, I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, back to brass tacks. You know, depending on if you speak Japanese, you're gonna have to watch it with subtitles. But like I said, it was a small budget. The entire thing was created in Japan. And because this is a small indie project, they did everything by themselves. They built the sets by hand, create, you know, the characters by hand. All of this is like super DIY. The editing and effects maybe on the cheaper side, but this was coming out of their pockets. And the fact that I was able to get a Blu-ray of this film when it hasn't even released in the United States yet, and hasn't even been released in Japan on like a wide scale, is phenomenal. Like, I don't even know how I got a hold of it. It looks, it's crazy. I even had when I was gonna acquire the Blu-ray, I even was talking straight to the director, and their, you know, director or whoever was, you know, as a representative of the director, you know, sent it to me, and with a little thank you and da-da-da-da. Pretty cool, actually. Pretty dope. Hopefully it gets released in the United States soon. I don't know when, but soon. They said it's going to be 2021, so that's good news for all of us. The characters' motivations was that the children in the film wanted to protect the lake god wanted to protect nature and traditions of the village, and the industrialists want to build a more modern Japan, remove tradition, and the moral of the film mainly is that tradition may be old, and it may be it's an older way of living and an older way of thinking, but it should be respected alongside the rise of a more modern way of life. You gotta have a little bit of this to have a little bit of that, you know? It's like they both have to be respected and both have to be looked at as not one totally better than the other, you know? Which I thought was pretty wholesome to a certain extent. The unique form of the film was probably the best aspect. Let's jump back into that pool, okay? The narrative form of this film was a simple 3-act plot, as I talked about before when I was discussing the plot. The introduction of the characters, time, place, main plot, climax, and resolution, and the mise-en-scene was incredible. The whole movie was done through miniature film sets made by hand. You know, like when you go to like your Joanne Fabrics, you know, they got a whole set during the Christmas time, you know, like the little trees, little people, and that little They're all just kind of like ice skating, you know, with the little houses and whatnot. Imagine that, but like a jungle forest Japan. It's crazy, you know. It was like super dope. There's one scene where you see like the grains of like normal rice being cooked in a little pot. It's like how big the rice grains are compared to the size of everything. It's just so cool. Okay, sorry, I geeked out a little bit there. Each scene was handmade and crafted meticulously. The lighting, the color grading of the movie was more dark and somber because the whole point of this film was supposed to be like this kind of melancholy feel. It was supposed to really get you in the feels, and even the music was even helped add to that a little bit. The atmosphere featured a lot of dark blues and grays, and the camera work was masterfully done and really gave decent realism to the puppets. Even though everything was super small, it really it got you in there. It got you right into each scene and really brought these really small little characters to life. It was pretty incredible actually how well that was done. Totally puppet driven movie. Like all the characters were puppets in one fashion or the other. It was pretty amazing. The music was mostly a combination of traditional Japanese folk, eerie cinematic scoring, and even there was this little Japanese rock section that's towards the climax of the film, which I thought was really fun. All the music was composed by a Japanese music artist named Cho. Did an amazing job in scoring this film. The J-Rock, which it was just an interesting choice. I don't know if it was the best choice, but it was an interesting choice. But if you watch the film, you'll see what I'm talking about. The sound design was super high quality and was big. It was resounding, and the sound of the roar from the creature was really done super well. The bone-chilling reverb on the roar and the atmosphere of the village was really designed well. The sounds of birds and the sound of falling leaves and even the sound of water was done oof, The editor picked the best bird sounds, wind atmosphere, soundscapes that provided the most compelling world building to a very different and kind of unusual movie. It's the form choice combined with the amazing sound design. Sound design was probably sound design and set design was the shining pinnacle of this movie. That's what drove this movie. The story was okay. The story was great. I'm not knocking the story of the film. It was fantastic. I thought it was good. Editing, as far as effects editing was probably the one that was skipped on the most. I mean, for the most part, it was pretty cool, but overall, it was a low budget, super low quality. Most of the money went into the set design. I think that's by far where all the money went. It's a must-see for a couple of things. You could definitely see the effort, the passion, the time, the energy that was put into the film, the masterfulness of the set of the designs, the intricacy of set design and music, sound, colors, editing to a certain extent, not so much effects, but editing as a whole, just done really well. The movie clocks at 35 minutes. If you're on a train, right, you could watch this on a commute to work. Even maybe you can knock in an episode of Downton Abbey on top of this, right? It's super easy, Throw in a little Breaking Bad in there if you wanted to. Throw some Breaking Bad, Howl from Beyond the Fog, Downton Abbey, in that order even if you wanted to. Let me tell you, it's you can do it. It's possible if you believe it. But all these things are clearly portrayed on screen, and you can see that this was somebody's baby in a sense. They really wanted to build something that was unique in the kaiju genre. Oh, and also did I mention that I don't know if I did, but that the main character, the main character and the male and female MCs are both voiced by the same characters that would have been that were in Your Name, or that one Japanese anime movie with the water and the rain thing. I'll find it. I'll put the name up here. Overall, it's a good cast, just good stuff. So if you haven't seen the film already, I would definitely recommend I would definitely recommend Howl from Beyond the Fog. If you can find it, good luck. I found it on SRS.com, which is like a movie distribution site and like, you know, blog, I think. That's where I found it. Order the Blu-ray if you haven't already, if you like Blu-rays, if you have a Blu-ray player. Either that or just wait. But check out the trailers, because there's trailers on YouTube for Howl from Beyond the Fog. But overall, a great film, definitely worth watching. That's pretty much, that wraps up this video, you know, so thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one. Goodbye.